Welcome to The Point, a podcast by Apex Benefits and dedicated to employee benefits thought leadership. You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.
Welcome back to The Point, Fort Wayne. I'm Cassie Lamb, Benefits Strategist for Apex Benefits, and joining me today are Theresa Steele of Steele Business Coaching and Scott Long with Apex Benefits. Welcome to The Point, Fort Wayne. Theresa and Scott, would you please take a moment and just introduce yourselves for our listeners?
Sure. My name's Theresa Steele, and as Cassie just mentioned, I'm with Steele Business Coaching, and I'm a licensed EOS implementer.
Awesome. Thanks, Theresa. So this is Scott Long. I'm an executive advisor with Apex Benefits. I work with employers of all types, predominantly in central Indiana and in Fort Wayne with Cassie.
Thanks so much to both of you. Theresa, your passion is to help business owners and their leadership teams get on the same page and create traction that's needed in order to grow their respective businesses. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got involved with the entrepreneurial operating system, also known as EOS?
Sure. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Both my dad and my stepmom had their own businesses. So, at a very early age, I was involved in that. If your family, your parents run a business, you are ultimately involved in some capacity. And so growing up with that, as an adult, I had my first business when I was 21. Two of my three siblings have their own businesses. So it's just kind of in our blood. I think it's in our DNA. But so I had my first business when I was 21, but then ended up going to work for a couple entrepreneurs, small businesses. They were in the civil engineering and land surveying industry, and worked with them and was planning on going down that road, but then ended up started out doing that. But I was also at the same time studying business, and ended up getting recruited into a global manufacturer, and saw the way that they did business, the training and the development that they had offered through to their employees, and thought it would be beneficial for small businesses to have that same access. And so dove in, started working with businesses, because one of the common threads that I saw that I was doing in all those businesses was helping them with their process, documentation, streamlining, and everything. And so went and did that, because I saw that was one of the areas where they would, sometimes things would fall through the gaps and they were recreating the wheel. So wanted to provide that streamlining process for them. And then, so I started my business back in 2012. So I've been doing it for almost 8 years now, and transitioned into doing EOS about 2.5 years ago. And what did it for me was I ran into the book Traction by Gino Wickman, and read that book, fell in love with it, started reading the other books in the Traction library, reached out to several EOS implementers, dug into other coaching programs, and ultimately chose EOS because I thought it was the best fit for accomplishing what I wanted to do in working with businesses.
Appreciate that background. So I think a couple things that you mentioned, right? The idea of trying to help an entrepreneur streamline processes and documentation. It's got to be a high reward when you get somebody that's over the hump and kind of accepting of this new paradigm or this new way of doing things. And entrepreneurs, of course, are sort of masters or experts in their own field. So I suspect there's a strong sort of presence when you show up to help coach them. What are some things that have helped you overcome or kind of gotten through those challenges with entrepreneurs?
Well, I am just here to help facilitate and teach them the EOS tools. I'm not there to tell them how to run their business. So first of all, it's of course building that rapport and understanding what it is they want to get out of their business, and then introducing the tools and showing them how those tools will help them achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, as you and I both know, living in Fort Wayne and just Northeast Indiana as a whole, it's grown leaps and bounds in the last few years. And the small business space has exploded as well with restaurants and small business owners. So how are you able to help those business owners identify opportunities to continue to gain the momentum that we have already seen?
So really it's opening up that platform for them to create a discipline of sharing information and not just keeping it all in their head. So that's huge, because a lot of people will say, well, it's in my head, but I encourage them over and over and over again to make sure that they are open and honest. And whether they think it's important or relevant or timely, just get it out there. And I continue to encourage them that the more that they are willing to be open and honest and vulnerable with themselves and everyone around the table, the quicker they can move the company forward. So that means being open to with sharing their own perspectives, feelings, thoughts, and then being receptive to everyone else. So it's just a mindset shift. If they're not used to being open about communicating those thoughts, feelings, perspectives, it's getting them in that motion of doing that and making sure that it's documented so everyone can see it. Because whether it's something that might be holding you back, if you have it out there, it allows other people to take a look at it, and they might already have a solution that you wouldn't have thought of. So it's more about making sure there's clarity and open communication.
That's really helpful, lowering the guard, and you said breakthrough. I'm curious, what does a breakthrough look like? Because I've got to imagine you're working with businesses that have been in operation for, since inception to 12 months, sort of very, very early. But I suspect you also get involved with, employers that have been around for 5 to 10 years. So what's a breakthrough look like? Is it a different look and feel for the two categories, at least, that I've painted?
So when we're looking at breakthroughs, we're looking at strengthening their entire company through these things we call the 6 key components, and their vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. And so there are tools and disciplines that we're introducing them to in each of those 6 key components, and we're working to strengthen them. And the goal is to get them to 80% or better in each of those key components. So we'll measure progress on this, what we call the EOS journey, and then look for opportunities to make those improvements.
Appreciate it.
Is that the question? Did I answer?
Yeah, I was just naturally curious if breakthroughs, applying the 80%, it sounds like, to a startup versus maybe a more mature organization, it really is tailored to what you're trying to accomplish within each group. I just was curious if a success in implementation looked different to a startup than a.
Yeah, it looks different and I usually don't work with startups, just to clarify that, but more it's about making sure that everyone is on the same page in every area, because that's what we're seeing a lot, is that one person thinks we're all on the same page with the vision. And the fact is that everybody has vision, but everybody's going in 5 different directions. So it's getting everybody on the same page and going down the same path and building on that vision.
Yeah, and Cassie and I, in the business that we're in with employee benefits, communication and engagement with employees is absolutely critical. But what you're really getting at is same page as it relates to the executive team, same page as it relates to different operational units within a company and division levels. So that's I'm sure even more important right now in the transition period with COVID, with some of staff would be at the house working from home and some in the office, and ensuring people are on the same page, I'm sure is, you know, maybe more of a challenge now, but couldn't be any more important than ever before.
Right. And so one of the things we teach them is called a level 10 meeting. And the first place we start with is working with the leadership team and making sure that they've got it set and they're meeting every single week and they're grading their meetings. So it's following a very specific agenda. And in that agenda, there's a lot of reporting. So they're looking at their numbers, they're tracking their big priorities, they're looking at, you know, they're touching base with their employees and their customers, making sure that anything that needs to be communicated gets shared. And then they're checking in on things that they were expected to complete within a weekly basis. So it's including or injecting some weekly focus and accountability. So they're taking a look at that. And then if there are any issues with anything's off track, anything they've got something that's they're not hitting their numbers or somebody's unhappy, all that falls into this issues list. And the issues list is something I try to encourage them not to be afraid of, and it's not a negative thing. It's good if you can identify the issues. And the issues can also be positive things like opportunities and ideas. It's not just we've got to fix a problem, there's a fire to put out. And with that, we're also talking about digging down to the root cause. Because if you're just putting band-aids on everything, eventually things are going to just completely unfold. So if you can dig down and understand what is the root cause of that issue and focus on that, because what we often see is a lot of people will get together and then just discuss the heck out of an issue and never really resolve it. So we teach this thing called the issue solving track, or IDS, and it's a format to help keep people on track for solving those issues. And
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you could be in a meeting for 60 minutes and you look around and said, okay, we just talked about a lot, but are we in a different spot than when we started this? So a framework to help all involved usher through that process and truly solve the issue by looking at the kind of the root issues. It's really refreshing.
Right. And then just making sure you recap it and make sure that everybody's on the same page when you walk out of the meeting. And if there are any what we call cascading messages, so if you've got some to-dos that come out of your issues and somebody else outside of that meeting needs to know, we're going to make sure that everybody that's leaving the meeting knows who needs to know, when, how you're going to communicate it, whatever logistics need to be rolled out to them. And then you check in the following week to make sure that everything was done.
Yeah, it's a good amount of accountability, for sure.
I liked what you said about the accountability factor as well, Theresa. And it's one thing to have the conversation and then say, here's what we're going to do, but it's another thing to come back and say, did we do it? So I really appreciated that.
Right, because a lot of people, when they delegate something, they don't have that follow-up piece to make sure that it was actually completed. So this is just a way of, you don't have to hound somebody, you don't have to micromanage them, but it's just a check-in. Did we get it done? If not, why? Is there something, a barrier or a challenge that's keeping you from doing it? Because we want to not ding someone or get upset with them because they didn't complete it. There might be a real reason that's holding them back, and we just want them to lay it out. Say, are you the wrong owner for this, completing this issue or this to do, or is there someone that's holding you back? Do you not have the right resources? We want it to be an open platform. So it's just about communicating, opening it up, and then resolving it. There's no finger pointing. It's just making the business better.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Theresa, thanks so much for coming on the Point Fort Wayne, and we know that time is just extremely valuable these days. Cassie and I have talked about this. We're not running around town as much as we are, in a car. So we're having a lot more efficient days, and we understand, what time and value is. So we really appreciate you carving out the time and energy for us today.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Thanks, Theresa.
You're welcome.
You can find more episodes for free on iTunes by searching The Point or Apex Benefits. Please rate, review, and subscribe to be the first to know about what we have in store for you. To learn more about Apex Benefits, please visit our website at www.apexbg.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Let's get to the point together.